the foundation for qualitative higher education. And so let's spend quality time on basic education in Nigeria as we bring you a fresh edition of Weekend File. Good evening and welcome to the show. The mission of the Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC, is to operate as an intervention, coordinating and monitoring agency to progressively improve the capacity of states, local government agencies and communities in the provision of unfettered access to high-quality basic education in Nigeria. It also aims at a transformation of the education sector as it affects basic education with respect to infrastructural development, teacher education, teacher professional development, sinking of boreholes, construction of toilets, and provision of library resources. Tracking the utilization of UBEC intervention and state counterpart funds based on level of utilization also forms part of its mandate. Just recently, UBEC management presented a review of its national personnel audit in all public basic education institutions. We were told that for the first time, the exercise was extended to private education subsector and that judged to be very comprehensive audit. In our program today, we will take a closer look at major areas of public concern, such as provision of infrastructure and retention of students, teacher deficit issue, access to quality basic education in the states, and of course factors responsible for out-of-school children and how to address this situation. Other matters arising in the aftermath of the review of personnel audit by UBEC will receive adequate attention in the course of the program. My name is Kirian Umayo and this is Weekend File, the 51st edition of the program for the year 2019. And we'd like to thank you for staying with us on the show all year round as we continue to serve you news, views and analysis on this platform. For now, let's begin with the news. President Muhammadu Buhari has made a strong case for an enduring security partnership towards confronting and defeating the evil of cross-border terrorism in the ECOWAS sub-region. Addressing the 56th ordinary session of the heads of states and government of the sub-region, the president was emphatic that this is urgently needed as terrorism remains a major threat to the desired peace and progress. State House correspondent Adam Sambu has the report.
May we all now please rise to observe a minute's silence.
At the instance of President Muhammadu Buhari, the ECOWAS Leaders Summit commenced with a moment of silence in honor of the 73 Nigerian soldiers brutally massacred in yet another terrorist attack. The sub-region, without doubt, has been hard hit by such attacks, which are intensified with every passing day, undermining efforts at achieving peace, progress and development.
In the Sahel region, Boko Haram has shown resilience. Our region is strongly affected by terrorist attacks, which is gaining in intensity and in space.
We remain committed to working under EU leadership to make the community a region of peace, security and prosperity.
The ECOWAS leaders therefore considered a special report on the action plan for regional security and its financing mechanism, the single currency program, as well as the political situation and presidential election in Guinea-Bissau.
Let me now restate Nigeria's commitment to regional integration and stress the need to always channel our energy towards new strategies and initiatives that will accelerate the attainment of our regional aspirations for sustainable peace, security, stability, and inclusive economic growth. To achieve this, we must put our people at the heart of our policies and actions.
In a goodwill message, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres noted with admiration the West African leaders' commitment to peace, stability, democracy, and development.
The United Nations is cognizant of ECOWAS as a true embodiment of multilateralism in West Africa, a shining example in Africa and beyond. UN is therefore committed to enhance our engagement with ECOWAS towards improving governance, including in the security sector.
I applaud you, heads of states and governments, for your leadership to mobilize $1 billion to ensure the region's security. The African Development Bank will be ready to help ECOWAS on this fund. I am also discussing with the IMF Managing Director how we can come up with new financing instruments to address these exogenous security-related shocks.
A communique is expected at the end of the summit aimed at advancing sub-regional integration as well as promoting socio-economic development. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, a communique has already been issued at the end of the summit, as Usman Aliyu reports.
The funds agreed by the ECOWAS heads of authority to implement action plan in fighting terrorism demonstrate strong partnership by the regional body towards addressing the resurgence of terrorism in the Sahel region. Member nation will raise $1 billion, while the remaining balance will be from the support by developing partners. They also made case for the setting up of G5 Sahel forces under the UN Security Charter to support Mali overcome threats by terrorists. The decades dream of ECO single currency has been realized, and symbols to feature on the currency agreed to improve regional trade and integration.
The heads of state and government took note of the proposed symbols of the ECO single currency.
The African sub-regional leaders acknowledge the improvement on the economy in West Africa, with 3.3% increase against the 3% it was in 2018, attributing the development to the efficient leadership of the Africa's Development Bank under Akinwumi Adesina, whom they endorsed to run for the second term. Chairman of the ECOWAS, the President of Niger Republic, Mohamed Issoufou, and the President of Guinea, Alpha Conde, expressed high regards with the way Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari is supporting the region and Africa for improved integration. Other issues include ensuring democratic stability in the region, as 6 members of ECOWAS are conducting presidential election in 2020, while Guinea-Bissau is concluding her own.
Now, ECOWAS member states have been enjoined to genuinely reason with Nigeria and allow the tripartite ministerial committee and the ongoing security drill to find durable solutions to the long-standing smuggling activities detrimental to the nation's economy. President Muhammadu Buhari, who said this while granting audience to President Patrice Talon of the Republic of Benin, maintains that Nigeria has not altogether closed her borders, but some banned items are being smuggled in contrary to the trade liberalization scheme. Here again is Adamu Sambo.
The high-level engagement between President Muhammadu Buhari and his Beninois counterpart, Patrice Talon, held behind closed doors, centered mainly on the partial closure of the nation's land borders.
Mr. President pointed out that the mischief with regards to the borders was really the small arms and other weapons that are smuggled into the country, compromising the security of the country, and that it's not a hostile act against Benin in any way. President Talon indicated that he has full confidence in Mr. President in whatever decision he takes with regards to the border.
Issues relating to the proposed ECOWAS single currency program dominated discussions when President Muhammadu Buhari met the Ivorian leader Alassane Ouattara on the margins of the ECOWAS summit.
President Ouattara briefed Mr. President on the steps that the French-speaking African countries are taking with respect to the single currency. The idea is to have an ECOWAS single currency. So their single currency is supported by the French government and the French Central Bank. So he was giving a report on the steps that they are taking to delink themselves from that system.
President Ouattara told the Nigerian leader that he received full support of the French government that the Francophone West African states are free to leave the Union and join the ECO. President Buhari expressed delight that France did not stand in the way of the ECOWAS single currency. On the ongoing debate on foreign borrowing, The president described it as necessary towards funding critical rail, roads and power infrastructure, without which, he said, investors will not be encouraged to invest in Nigeria. At another bilateral meeting with the president of Sierra Leone, Julius Maada Bio, President Buhari said he was impressed with the ongoing efforts at securing and stabilizing the country.
It was really a status report on what the president has been doing since he came into power, the measures he's taken, in particular with regards to fighting corruption, and the economic and social measures that are being taken, and especially also in the area of education. And appreciated very much Nigeria's support, financial and human resource-wise, and hoping that Nigeria will continue in this support. And Mr. President committed to continuing the support, pointing out that anything that affects any country in the ECOWAS sub-region affects all of us.
President Roch Marc Christian Kabore of Burkina Faso also came calling, during which he commended President Buhari for sustaining efforts at transforming Nigeria despite the distractions from terrorists. He described Nigeria as a powerhouse that drives economic growth and development in the region. The two leaders agreed to convene a meeting of the two states to discuss in greater detail issues pertaining to security and economy. President Buhari also had a one-on-one interaction with his Liberian counterpart, George Oppong-Weah, but details of their discussions were not made public. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Thank you, Adamu. Now to defense matters. The Defense Headquarters has declared some crisis areas of Benue, Taraba and Nasarawa states now peaceful and safe for habitation. Director Defense Information, Brigadier General Onyema Nwachukwu, said this during an inspection of some of the security-threatened communities of Benue and Taraba states. Charles Abba reports.
That was a chant by the troop of Operation Weststroke, signifying their victory over the persistent crisis. A number of traders in areas like Bishe, in Kasinala local government area, Benue State, Takum and Wukari local government areas of Taraba State attested to the return of peace.
We are selling things accordingly. We don't have anybody disturbing us.
Business is moving fine. Everything is okay.
Commander of Operation Weststroke, Major General Deyemi Yekini, appreciated the 72 and 93 battalions and other security agencies for their synergy.
Our approach in Operation Weststroke has always been a two-pronged operational strategy which involves a series of peace and security meetings.
The mission fundamentally is to restore peace, safety and security in Benue, Taraba and Nasarawa states.
More than 50 deadly criminals were arrested and a sort of sophisticated weapons recovered from them by Operation Weststroke during its operations. From Wukari, Taraba State, Charles Abba, NTA News.
Tasked with the combat training of Nigerian Air Force pilots, the Air Combat Training Group has put on a display signifying the combat readiness of 13 new graduates from the tactical corps. Najatu Tijani has that report.
Scoring accurate hits on the target, the pilot demonstrates his expertise with the Augusta 109 combat helicopter. Likewise, his counterparts flying the Alpha Jet. Their expertise in the tactical helicopter course, along with their counterparts who have completed both the tactical fighting and helicopter courses, is being awarded at the Nigerian Air Force Base, Makudi.
They have done this afternoon is just like a conclusion of that training, which is the range classification exercise. I think we have every reason to be excited that we are making progress in terms of building of capacity of our officers.
4 of the pilots were trained by the Egyptian Air Force, while others were trained in the Air Combat Training Group Kainji and 405 Helicopter Combat Group Enugu. Here with 2 of the best graduating pilots in their fields. This is Flying Officer Galadanchi, pilot in the Tactical Helicopter course. And how does it make you feel knowing that you'll be serving the nation?
Yeah, It's a very rewarding feel, and definitely is something I've always looked forward to.
This is critical as the nation leans more towards self-reliance. Naja'atu Tijani, NTA News.
The quest to establish connectivity between the Lagos seaport and the dry port in Ibadan is progressing as the contractor handling the project has finally laid the standard gauge track to the major train station in Ibadan. The Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, commended the pace of work but challenged the contractor on delivering the train stations along the axis on time. Michael Olaleye tells us more.
The timely completion of the Lagos-Ibadan Rail project is crucial to the federal government's plan to unlock the huge economic potential at the Apapa Trade Corridor in Lagos State. To guard against any delay, the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, has deployed regular inspection of the ongoing project to quickly link the Lagos seaport to the dry port in Ibadan.
We agree that this is the first time we're taking a ride to Ibadan major station. So shouldn't you commend them that they have been able to get to the end of the 156 kilometers?
The pace of work on the track is not being replicated at the train stations owing to challenges ranging from limited manpower to inadequate construction materials.
We are expecting in January a set of DMU coaches made up of 8 of various classes of coaches, the executive, the VIP and the normal standard coaches, 8 of them.
The agreement among all parties signatory to the contract is that necessary steps must be taken to ensure completion by April 2020. In Lagos, Michael Olaleye, NT News.
In preparation for a crash-free Yuletide across the country, the Federal Road Safety Corps Marshal Boboye Oyeyemi has urged tanker drivers to ensure a celebration of no tanker crashes in Nigeria. He gave the advice during the quarterly meeting and training of petroleum tanker drivers in Benin, Edo State.
Global report by World Health Organization reveals that annual road traffic death has reached 1.35 million. The report further highlights road traffic crashes as leading cause of death, especially among young people between the ages of 15 and 29. Against this background, Corps Marshal Federal Road Safety Corps Boboye Oyeyemi lectured petroleum tankers on the need for zero crash in Benin.
January to August, 246 tankers were involved in crash. It has gone more. When I calculated it, that was 4.6 billion loss and 60 million per head and the body. 4.6 billion, excluding the products, including the damage to the environment, 14.6 billion.
Some of the factors responsible for tanker crashes were listed to include brake failure, fire outbreak.
His grace is going to be accident-free.
The next petroleum tankers drivers training will take place in March 2020. In Benin, Obrakobong Achibong, NTA News.
The Dangote refinery, when completed, will create a market for Nigeria to earn about $17 billion from its crude. This, according to members of the Nigeria Governors Forum, will drastically improve the nation's economy post-2020 when operational. Dotun Oguyemi reports that aside oil, the Dangote industrial complex will also improve agriculture, power generation, and create jobs.
The Dangote Industry Complex houses the Dangote Petroleum Refinery, fertilizer plant and subsea gas pipeline plant. The refinery, which will have the capacity to refine 650,000 barrels of crude oil per day when completed, will meet 100% of the country's petroleum demand while saving Nigeria over $5.5 billion per annum on foreign exchange earnings from exports. That is why these governors have come on this facility tour to show support for Dangote Industries and this all-important project.
Nigeria can go places if only we are clear-sighted, we're visionary, and we're determined to achieve results. That's what you have done here. And this is something that would linger in our memories. In our appreciation, we have a letter here.
Reacting to the presentation of a letter, President and Chief Executive Dangote Industries Limited, Aliko Dangote, restated his commitments to doing more for the benefit of others.
And I want to assure you, we will continue to make you proud, continue to invest in Nigeria, continue to create jobs, continue to make all Nigerians proud, and make sure that, yes, we are the ones that will lead and other people too will follow to bring all our, all our money back to Nigeria and invest where we belong to.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu stated that there are plans to construct more roads linking Ekpe and Ibeju-Lekki to cope with the expected demand and create alternatives to the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway. In Lagos, Dotun Ogunyemi, NTA News.
African Alliance Insurance PLC is formulating new economic policies to deepen its practices. This was the resolution at the company's 50th annual general meeting held in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. Uduak Etim reports.
Addressing issues of mutual interest geared towards moving the company forward prompted the hosting of the 50th annual general meeting by the African Alliance Insurance PLC in Uyo. Audited financial statements for the year 2017 and 2018, together with that of the directors, auditors, and audit committee, were presented at the meeting. According to the report, there was slight improvement in operating results as the profit after tax decreased from a loss of 6.72 billion naira in 2017 to a loss of 2.4 billion naira in 2018.
The environment generally in Nigeria in the last 2 years we are talking about has been quite difficult. Not only for the insurance sector, but for the entire economy. We are working and we are optimistic that we'll arrive there.
The recent directive by the National Insurance Commission, NICOM, on recapitalization, the company is firm about its stance on retaining its position as the frontline insurance company, even as it decided to put a stop to writing new annuity policies.
We have plans to ensure that the company remains sustainable and that the company's culture is preserved and that the entity itself is preserved. And our shareholders have conviction in the board and the management of the organization to implement the strategic decisions and plans that we have.
The impression of this meeting is that it has given us hope to invest in the recapitalization of AA. We have heard about the hidden assets and the good thing about AA. And that's what shareholders will always want to hear of.
In order to improve insurance performance and investment in Nigeria's economy, Hamad Nauche and Silva Ogwemu were appointed into the board of directors of the company. In Uyo, Uduak Etam, NTA News.
Thank you, Uduak. You are watching Weekend File on the network service of the NTA. Today we are dealing with a review of National Personnel Audit of the Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC. Correspondence report is up ahead, and that will set the tone for our conversation, which comes on after that. Don't go away.
Wishing you a Merry Christmas, Nigeria. Glow Unlimited. Wake up. Nothing can hold us down. Get up. Born to wear the crown.
Breakfast your day, every day.
Nestle. Good food, good life.
What's football without banter? We love banter. All kinds of banter.
like the banter from a safe distance.
We go beat in later.
There's the "this is still my house" banter.
Dad, 4-0 isn't so bad.
It's not as bad as 0-0.
You're only calling to banter.
It's just someone
bad belly banter.
Your team can't even score an own goal.
Dry banter.
I beg, take Joe. This is the only cup your team will be winning this season.
And then there's that. Better banter. Whatever the banter better with Coca-Cola, the official soft drink partner of the English Premier League.
Treat your family to a cereal that's made from the natural goodness of maize and soya protein and specially combined with Grain Smart, a smart combination of vitamins and iron, so that they have the right kind of energy to help them reach their full potential and turn the simple into amazing. Eat up and carry go, because nothing do you. Golden Morn, make every day amazing.
Nestle, good food, good life.
My name is Giato Adeza Adams, the General Manager, Corporate and Strategic Communications, Nigerian Port Authority. As regards the land borders closure, available statistical data from APMT, which is one of our terminal operators that is involved in container handling terminal, has recorded an increase of 200 TEUs of cargoes into their terminal as a result of cargo diversion from the vessels originally meant for neighboring countries. That shows you that the terminal operators is going to have an increase in revenue, which is accrued to the terminal, and at the same time, Nigerian Port Authority will equally benefit from the revenue increase. So that is the benefit we have derived from the border closure.
Thank you and welcome back. Statistics indicate that at least more than 600 teachers were killed, 19,000 others forced to flee, and a number of schools destroyed between 2009 and 2015, a situation that devastated the education sector in Borno State, where learning and teaching was halted for years. Following the significant peace attained in the region so far, Naomi Abuako reports that schools are now fully in session due to some measures taken by stakeholders.
Out-of-school children in Borno State comprise of orphans unaccompanied and separated, whose number has risen over the years due to Boko Haram insurgency. The situation in Maiduguri, the state capital, and other local government areas is visible as evidence abounds in internally displaced persons camps and the streets where such children are seen wandering about, begging for alms and engaged in menial jobs.
We lost so many teachers since the beginning of this insurgency to date.
In line with universal best practices, as well as the federal government program through Universal Basic Education Board, UBEB, where Borno State government operates CPEB, and most recently Better Education Service Delivery for all BESDA, the story is now positive as schools are becoming overcrowded. This is due to the state government's huge investment in education through the construction of mega schools in Maiduguri and across the local government councils, as well as employment of teachers and the school enrollment drive initiative.
In some areas, hostels are being established so that orphans are also being accommodated in those boarding schools.
Efforts of development partners such as UN agencies, international and national NGOs, in partnership with the Borno State government, have succeeded greatly in school enrollment of children by involving traditional rulers, religious leaders, and parents in Maiduguri. Naomi Abuako, NTA News.
Now, the national personnel audit was conducted by UBEC, but how revealing was it in the southeast of Nigeria? Now, let's hear from Chinenye Moye.
Lack of data is usually a major setback in the education sector of any country, and Nigeria needs a basic education data for planning and effective management of the education sector. The Universal Basic Education Commission has the mandate to commence national personnel audits to carry out regular personnel audits of teaching and non-teaching staff of all public basic education institutions for the purposes of planning and management of basic education in the country. The first phase of the personnel audit was conducted in Enugu and other states in the Southeast Zone from 29th April to 27th May 2018. Enugu State Government enrolled into the Universal Basic Education Commission scheme, and this enrollment brought about a complete turnaround in the education system in the state. Over 500 schools in the state were either constructed, renovated and equipped with ultra-modern facilities, and about 2,500 teachers were recently recruited to handle the schools.
Presently, we have taken up another list, or put up another list of those we've identified. So any moment from now, we're going to start renovation works on those ones. Some of them don't even have at all. We have our data, and we are using a scale of preference.
Though the number of primary school pupils and out-of-school children in the state is yet to be ascertained, a new national personnel audit report as at June 2019 indicates that there is currently a shortage of about 277,537 teachers in basic education in Nigeria. In Ebonyi State, the education sector seems challenged not only by unqualified teachers but also infrastructural decadence.
Lack of equipment for learning.
When those that actually had the real equipment will be off the system, I wonder what the system will look like.
In working with various states, including Enugu State, has also put in place a dynamic data collective regime that would see to the periodic update of the National Basic Education Database in Enugu. Chinenye Nwoye, NTA News.
For decades, federal government introduced policies and programs to encourage enrollment and retention of children in schools. In this report, Hingino John Adams tells us what the Lagos State government is doing to complement the efforts.
Statistics by the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, reveals that 1 in every 5 out-of-school children in the world is in Nigeria, bringing the number to between 10.5 to 13.5 million. This is no good news for any country whose leadership is seeking development. That is why the Universal Basic Education Board is working tirelessly to encourage enrollment and retention into primary schools.
Primary school is the bedrock of education. When you get it wrong from the beginning, I'm afraid you may not be able to get it right again.
In Lagos State, the campaign is recording successes in the 1,016 public primary schools as the Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board has deployed strategies of actualizing its slogan, "Leave no child behind." One of such is the training of teachers in a program tagged EcoExcel to equip them with technical know-how in modern-day teaching to meet global best practices.
The level of enrollment in Lagos State School has been fantastic in the sense that people come to Lagos on a daily basis. Retention, with so many incentives we have introduced, the retention rate is also, increased. And by the grace of God, the completion rate is also very impressive.
The government of Lagos State budgeted the highest number of a percentage for education in order to make sure that education as a bedrock, right from primary school up to tertiary level, is taken seriously in the state.
As Nigeria journeys into the remaining 10 years of meeting the SDG 4, which is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all, there is need for stakeholders to intensify efforts at capturing every Nigerian child. In Lagos, Hingino John Adams, NTA News.
Now, Kingsley Amajiri reports that the intervention scheme by UBEC is impacting quality of education at the basic level in Rivers and Cross River states.
Cases of dilapidated schools dotted many communities in Rivers State and impacted negatively on the quality of teaching and learning then. Under the current leadership of the UBE board in Rivers State, 175 schools spread across the 23 local government areas have been either renovated or reconstructed. This followed the government payment of his counterpart funds, making available about 5.6 billion naira to the UBE board for investment into the program.
We're also not doing this only in the primary schools, we're also doing in the secondary school.
Some of the schools, which now have desks, water borehole, power generating sets, refrigerator, libraries, and other facilities.
So what the board did was to ensure that each local government had 5 schools in the first instance for the construction and for supply of infrastructure.
From Cross River State, Omar Bassi Edet reports that the state government, through its Universal Basic Education Board, has embarked on construction and rehabilitation of about 500 schools in the 18 local government areas of the state.
For the first time, we've awarded about 496 projects across the state, and 406 have been completed, the remaining ongoing.
Under the UBE program, the authorities envision to see that the schools in the state are brought at par with the right infrastructure and facilities. Kingsley Amajiri, NTA News.
To address the challenges of teacher deficit by 2023 and boost the quality of education, Kaduna State government is planning to recruit about 20,000 primary school teachers. Ahmad Omar Kodan brings us up to speed with the situation in Kaduna and Jigawa states.
Kaduna State has about 1.9 million pupils in 4,260 public primary schools across the state. About 39,873 teachers are managing this number of pupils, which stakeholders say are inadequate, going by 1 teacher to 40 pupils standard ratio. With this development, teachers' capacity building is receiving attention under Teacher Professional Development Fund.
I'm happy to note that very recent, the Global Partnership on Education had cause to survey virtually all the public primary schools in the country, and they ranked Kaduna State as being the top 3 in terms of having qualitative teachers in primaries 1 and 2.
From Jigawa, Mansur Ali reports that the state has been listed among those in the country with unqualified teachers in public schools, as released by Universal Basic Education Commission. The state currently has about 10,000 primary school teachers with about 2,500 schools across its 27 local government areas.
Recently, I conducted a tour of all the schools in the state, mostly not necessarily, but a good number of them. And I've seen how our teachers are working, the way they are conducting themselves, the kind of teaching and learning process that is taking place in those schools.
In Kaduna, Ahmad Umar Kudang, NTA.
Well, it's truly a partnership at the basic educational level, but obviously there are still areas that need closer ties. Now, how can this be achieved? Hamid Boboy is the Executive Secretary of the Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC, and he will be speaking on some of the issues raised from the reports that we have just watched. This is Weekend File. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll engage Habib in the conversation.
Years ago, a scout was looking around Bayelsa. Luckily for me, he came to my school. And that was how my journey of becoming the Nestle Milo Basketball Championship MVP began. Along the path, some people tried to discourage me because I was short. But then I got to realize that it's about your heart, not about your height. Sometimes I get discouraged going for training and all that. Sometimes I trek. And that is what every person that knows where he or she is going has to do, to play along with the challenges and make sure you overcome it. I am grateful for the platform Nestle is giving to young athletes like me. My name is Regina Donano, and this is my journey.
Nestle, good food, good life.
They swore an oath to serve our fatherland and defend the people. They traded their freedom, comfortable homes, and mortgaged their lives on the battleground for our unity and peaceful living. These are the great, fearless, loyal, and committed Nigerian armed forces who risked their lives courageously to safeguard our borders. But in the line of duty, many never returned. Nigerians, arise, let's celebrate our fallen heroes. Put on the remembrance emblem with pride to support the incapacitated and families of our fallen heroes.
It is indeed befitting to honor the memory of the gallant authors and men who paid the supreme sacrifice to keep the country united.
President Muhammadu Buhari enjoins all ministries, parastatals, religious and corporate bodies to donate generously to the Emblem Appeal Launch. Send your donations to these accounts. Account name, Emblem Appeal Launch. Account number 393-200-7526. EcoBank Nigeria PLC.
Now we welcome the Executive Secretary, Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC, the person of Hamid Boboyi, to Weekend File. So you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Kirian.
Yes, you watched a number of reports that we're able to put together from different parts of the country. And but before you go into some specifics that we have watched, let's have an idea of what this personnel audit review is all about.
Thank you very much for the question. It's a question that I think we have even discussed here when we were in the process of undertaking the personnel audit in 2018. We all know that in any system, data is very vital in helping a nation to plan, helping a nation to understand the kind of challenges that are before it, and then finding ways in which that understanding, gathering the data, analyzing the data, and then looking at areas of challenges, identifying areas where we are making progress, identifying areas where still challenges exist that we need to exert more effort to ensure that we can move forward. Planning is very important for the basic education sector, and it's something that we have said over and over again. Unless and until, as a nation, we can plan effectively, track things, understand where we are headed, it becomes very difficult. And that's what brought the national personnel audit into the entire exercise. We needed to go. Many a times, somebody will ask you, in terms of the number of pupils and learners and students you have within the system, in terms of teachers, in terms of a lot of aspects that deal with the various characteristics of the basic education system. But it becomes very difficult to actually approach. So, as an exercise, it started in April 2018, where we inaugurated the committee under the and it was launched by the Minister of Education, Mala Adamu, and we from day one we got the involvement and the buy-in of each and every stakeholder within the basic education sector. And thereafter, having worked out all those modalities, we now ensured that we visited every school in the Federation. We took the GPS coordinates of every school in the Federation that we were able to access, because there were certain places, you mentioned Maiduguri and other places, that was very difficult actually to visit the northern part of that particular state. Okay. And at the end of the day, got the data we require to come together, look at where we are, analyze, look at those gaps that I'm talking about, and at the same time, see how do we move forward on those particular issues.
All right, understandable. The last time this review was done, if I'm right, should be 2010. 2010. One wonders why it took all these years before another review was done. But that's not the case for now. But you have already raised an important issue here, that you have done this review to be able to have the data required for the development of that sector, that education subsector. Now, going by your findings, which of these tales or zones will have the highest indices or percentage of students enrollment, retention, and what have you?
Yeah, it's a very vast, vast. It's a data that was collected on almost every index that we have within the system. It's a massive database that we have, that we are inviting the general public, particularly our education stakeholders, to take advantage, to query it, and get a lot of responses about the nature of the system. But the report we presented was a summary of trying to make people understand. In terms of enrollment, but even before we come to enrollment, in terms of number of schools, it's very interesting to see that, isn't it? At the moment, we have under ECCDE, the early childhood, isn't it, and the pre-primary, isn't it, section, about 81,562 centers. Interestingly, the public ones are only 33,214. While the private sector, because for the first time also in our national personnel audit, we included the private sector. We said, let's see what are private schools doing. Because we have Nigerian children in these schools. And we have to be concerned to see, isn't it, whether they are learning or not in that particular regard. But, at the level of primary school, again, we have over 113,000 schools nationwide that we have looked at, isn't it, during our processes. And JSS, we had 31,017 schools. With 13,000, isn't it, 17 public, and more. The private sector bearing the burden, isn't it, of running 17,000, isn't it, of those schools. Isn't it, in a way, isn't it, you have the private sector actually under ECCD and under JSS, isn't it, taking a much greater burden than we had been anticipating. Now, getting to issue of enrollment that you have mentioned, it's interesting that the ECCD sector now has about 7,159,000 plus, isn't it, in terms of learners who are there. With a lot of numbers, of course, isn't it, Kano having the highest because of its population, Akwa Ibom having the second highest, with Lagos coming third, isn't it, in terms of the total enrollment that we have. Unfortunately, the Northeast that had been mentioned, that had been lagging behind, Yobe with only 43,000, isn't it, Bayelsa with another 54,000. Again, the riverine challenges, isn't it, that we have there, and then Gombe with 60,000 plus, isn't it, in that particular area. Primary schools, we have 27 million pupils, 889,387. And you find that the Northwest has the highest. The Northwest has about 10 million. 9,971 plus, while the Southeast has the lowest with 2,642 plus, in that particular regard. But Kano State seems to be having the highest primary school population in the country, with 3,294,342 pupils.
That's quite a number.
It's quite a number, isn't it? Because sometimes we are underestimating Nigeria's population. And how this has been growing, isn't it, over. And the other Millionaires Club, those with million, from 1 million to about 1.9 million, isn't it, that's the Millionaires Club, as I refer to them, isn't it, that includes Kaduna, Katsina, Akwa Ibom, and Imo, Ondo, and Oyo States.
Yes. Okay, now, infrastructure is key to the provision of basic education, globally speaking. And now, are you satisfied with the infrastructural, facilities or equipment, as the case may be, in the course of this review that you carried out?
The infrastructure has been a problem. And anybody who goes around, our states would come to appreciate that particular, point, that we have a lot of dilapidated, infrastructure across, the nation. You come to find these challenges, particularly again in areas that have very high enrollment. Because the higher number you have, the more of those facilities that you have to provide.
Now who is responsible for providing them? Because I understand that you have your intervention funds, and there's also counterpart funding by state governments, right? So on this issue of infrastructure, who should lead in terms of its provision?
No, don't forget that UBEC is an intervention agency. It's established by the federal government to ensure that it provides support to states. Constitutionally, primary education is the responsibility of the local government. Secondary education, junior secondary, the responsibility of the state, constitutionally. But at the end of the day, the federal government felt that it needed to support the states to ensure that we can have decent teaching learning facilities within, isn't it, our own schools. And that's the reason why 50% of UBEC funds, the 2% of the CFR that is transferred, goes to support infrastructural development in the state. Interestingly, recently what even the president did was to ensure that those states that had not paid their counterpart funding, from the Paris, those who have monies, isn't it, from those Paris Club refunds, isn't it, the monies were deducted and credited, isn't it, to UBEC account to ensure that, isn't it, the states are up to date up to 31st of August 2018 when these deductions were made. And from June of 2019, isn't it, to July 2019, UBEC had remitted 147 billion to states for infrastructure. So at the end of the day, the federal government at least is doing its own part. The states have also been struggling to see that, isn't it, they meet up these obligations. Interestingly, for 2019, isn't it, because they access 2019 in 2020, we have quite a large number of states coming forward, isn't it, to pay their counterpart funding. So the counterpart funding is used for infrastructure to support the states, isn't it, and there are a lot of states that are also putting in their resources. You have mentioned, isn't it, states like Kaduna, Imo, isn't it, Ebonyi, Lagos, and so on and so forth, because these are states with high populations. And unless they intervene massively, it will become very difficult for them to sustain the infrastructural development that can support teaching and learning within their own schools.
Okay, now, do you have any method or methodology, by which you monitor, the funds that you give out to some of these states with respect to ensuring, that the infrastructure is indeed provided? Is there any monitoring mechanism that you put in place to check on that?
Thank you very much. When we provide the money, in the first place, every quarter we do the financial monitoring to ensure, isn't it, the status of utilization of funds within the states. And this is a collective federal effort. It's not just from UBEC, but it's from the Accountant General's office, from Ministry of Finance, Budget Office, isn't, the entire system that goes quarterly and to go over the books, isn't it, of SUBEBs. Secondly, for every matching grant project in every state, we have an independent consultant who follows, isn't it, how these monies are being utilized. Thirdly, we have resident engineers in every state of the Federation. And what we have done is even now to make the monitoring, isn't it, a little bit more active, in the sense that unless as a resident engineer you are at the site, you cannot upload your report, isn't it, and the pictures of the project onto our cloud server.
Okay.
So there are a lot of measures that we have taken. And then we have NGOs, isn't it, that have also been very supportive in this particular process. We even now, isn't it, besides those engineers that we have trained, isn't it, within the SUBEBs, isn't it, to ensure that we monitor each and every project. Last but not the least, we are working with NASDRA to ensure, again, that we have satellite feeds of every project, because we have taken those GPS coordinates, as I've already told you.
Okay, just briefly, we still hear about huge number of out-of-school children. Did you take cognizance of that, during the process of personnel audit?
No, the process of personnel audit has been very useful in giving us, isn't it, those figures about out-of-school children, about, isn't it, the various indices, isn't it, that are available, for us, isn't it, during that process. And it was through that at the end of the day, isn't it, we were able to establish that those children, aged 6 to 11, that we have been able to capture, isn't it, in those various schools, isn't it, and the various calculations and so on and so forth, isn't it, that we had. The Northwest, isn't it, if you add Northwest, Northeast, and North Central, they have over 70% of the out-of-school children in Nigeria. For a variety of reasons, isn't it, that we can get, is it, to be able, isn't it, to do that was to get the in-school population, the entire in-school population that we had, isn't it, and then get the population estimates that are available from NPOPC, isn't it, the National Population Commission, isn't it, to get, okay, what age group do we have within that 6 to 11, isn't it, that are supposed to be in school. Right. And I think it was quite an extensive exercise of trying to look at it, not only, isn't it, at all the various levels, in terms of also the gross and net the gross and net enrollment ratios that were there to give us a good idea. And that's how we arrived at that 10.1, isn't it, million out of school children, isn't it, for that particular period.
Well, we hope as time goes on, you'll be able to tackle that particular issue, because, of course, it's not a good omen, to have such number of children out of school.
No one should be left behind.
6 and 11. Exactly. All right. Thank you very much for coming.
No, thank you.
Hamid Boboy, we appreciate your contribution this evening on our show.
No, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
I have been speaking with Hamid Boboy, Executive Secretary, University Basic Education Commission, UBEC. This is Weekend File. We'll be back very shortly.
Breakfast good day. Every day.
Nestle, good food, good life.
Checking out of this country without proper planning means one thing. Unimaginable begin. I've been in the diaspora, but legitimately doing great things at home and abroad. As I've been saying, without the proper footing abroad, the risk is not worth it. Listen, Alinko, it's better to be home than be trapped abroad, or even end up in prison.
Nigerians react to loss of FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup hosting to Costa Rica and Panama. Olumide Eguntola is our guide on sports update.
The Bureau of FIFA Council has granted Costa Rica and Panama the hosting right of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup, slated for August in the year 2020. It will be recalled that Nigeria also bidded for the championship, but was not favoured to host the event.
The conditions they gave at a point was, okay, fine, no need going around the country having multiple centres. Can we just have like 2 cities that can have about 8 training pitches? We couldn't provide any city.
A big deal. You win some, you lose some. We're not too far from here. In 2009, we hosted the Under-17 World Cup. So if we have to rest and make sure our facilities are up to date.
It's just another reminder to us that we need to invest in infrastructure.
Nigerian participants to the African Canoe Under-23 and Junior Championship in Egypt are back in the country after winning medals for Nigeria. Emmanuel Ayomide won gold in the C1 500 meters and silver in the 200 meters, while Bose De Omoboni won gold in the Para-K 13 200 meters. 13 countries featured in the championship.
We kind of use this opportunity to prepare her towards that championship, the qualification, so that it will not be that she's just training and there is nowhere to test her. That was why we allowed her to go to Egypt.
And from Kwara State government has reiterated its commitment to the development of sports through the provision of basic facilities, equipment, and motivation of athletes. The Deputy Governor, Kayode Alabi, who was an ex-handball player, informed NTA Sports that the state has resolved to establish Kwara State Sports Commission in line with the current trend in Nigeria.
My boss says we're going to set up a sports commission, okay? And that will take away the bureaucracy of running sports. Sometimes you need to get the money into the right time at the right time.
With Sports Update, Olumide Eguntola, NTA News.
Well, and that's our show for today. We thank you for watching. We'll see you again next week.